We talked about some former basketball sensations in the NBA. Now it's time to check on some in the college ranks. So if you guys like my content, make sure you like and subscribe. Let's try to get 34 likes on today's video, and let's hop into it. At one point, Mac McClung was one of the most well-known basketball players on the planet. Despite being nowhere to be seen on top recruiting rankings, Mac McClung was making headlines every time he touched the court. He went viral for his crazy scoring performances and ability to just jump out the gym. He would graduate with the most points in Virginia high school basketball history. Oh, and the player who held that record before him was none other than Allen Iverson. At this time, the debate was pretty heated on whether or not Mac McClung deserved to be a top recruit and whether or not he had an NBA future. The production and the athleticism was hard to argue with, and while Mac McClung originally had committed to the University of Rutgers, he ended up deciding to go to Georgetown. He really wasn't on the map of NBA teams coming into the year, but still had extremely high expectations given the eyes on him and what he had done in high school. His freshman season was pretty uneventful. He would average just 13 points, shooting less than 40% from the field and 28% from three. At this point, it wasn't looking great for McClung, and not much would change in his sophomore year as he would average 16 points, leading the team. But again, the efficiency just wasn't there. He shot below 40% from the field, and again, 32% from three. We saw flashes of crazy potential, such as his 38 points against Little Rock and 33 against Oklahoma State, but it just wasn't enough for him to enter the conversation for the NBA. Going into this season, his junior year, he decided to transfer to Texas Tech and was actually granted a waiver, so he was eligible to start the season. And so far in 6 games, it's been the same player we've seen for the past 2 years. 14 points a game, below 40% from the field, and right around 33% from three. He's still clearly a very solid college player. It just doesn't look like he's going to be that future superstar we decided to hype him up when he was racking in millions and millions of views daily. The athleticism is clearly there, and when he gets in the open court, you can guarantee he's going to put on a show. But when you consider his size, the fact that he's not a great defender, shooter, or playmaker, it's going to be very tough to be given enough credit to get drafted. For now, while it doesn't look like the NBA is in the cards, he still has almost 2 years left to prove himself. But regardless, I think basketball's in his future, whether that's overseas or if he decides to become a content creator. I know he would have millions and millions of views just waiting at his doorstep. Like Mac McClung, Jordan McCabe was one of the most well-known high school basketball players in the country coming out of the 2018 class. Now, McCabe was different to McClung in the fact that he was a child prodigy. He went viral at a really young age when a news channel ran a story about his crazy skills and workout routine for someone that young. This would land him opportunities such as appearing on the Ellen DeGeneres show. But what's so interesting about McCabe is that he was one of the few quote-unquote child prodigies that was actually pretty good as his career went on. He would continue to go viral throughout high school, dominating West Virginia basketball with some of the most impressive handles in passing in the country. By the time he graduated, he was the 86th player in the country, 19th point guard, and 3rd player in the state. He would then decide to go to his home state, West Virginia team for college. In his freshman year, he would have the biggest role to date, getting 18 minutes a game, but it just wasn't pretty, averaging 6 points and 3 assists, shooting 32% from the field and 34% from three. At this point, standing at 5'11", it really didn't look like he had any NBA hopes. As a sophomore, it would get nothing but worse, and so far this year, he's averaged just 2 points and 1 assist a game. Not looking good for the former top recruit, and honestly surprising. I never saw him making it to the league, but I did expect him to be a very, very solid college player, but at this point, that just hasn't been the case. Sharif ONeil has had one of the most interesting stories to follow since he stepped foot on the high school basketball court. He first jumped on the scene when he started playing high school basketball, not because of what he was doing on the court. In fact, early on in his high school career, he didn't have much of a role at all, averaging under 4 points a game as a freshman, but it was because he was the son of one of the best players in NBA history, Shaquille O'Neal. Early on, while Sharif was starting to get scholarship offers from schools such as USC and LSU, he still wasn't a top recruit. This would really start to change in 2016 when he transferred to Crossroads. There he would take on a big role, in between Crossroads and what he was doing in the EYBL, playing alongside top 5 recruit Bol Bol, he would quickly rise up the recruiting rankings. While being the son of Shaq, gifted him with a 6'10" frame, he was nothing like his father as a player. Shaq was a big-bodied center that dominated the game with his strength. Sharif was a forward that got a lot of his buckets off the dribble and beyond the perimeter. ONeil would graduate as the 32nd player in the country and would decide to go to UCLA. Now, going into his freshman season, he was legitimately in the conversation for the NBA. It wasn't a given, he wasn't a projected lottery pick or anything like that, but with a solid freshman season, he had a real shot. Everything would change for ONeil quickly when, leading up to the season, team doctors discovered he had a heart condition and would need surgery, keeping him out for the whole season. Despite looking really impressive in the Drew League the following summer, it wasn't a great return for the redshirt freshman. He would get 10 minutes a game where he averaged just 2 points. By the time ONeil had gotten fully healthy, the head coach Steve Alford had been fired in favor of McRae. After Cronin failed to get ONeil into the game for the 5th time of the year, on January 19th, ONeil would decide to leave UCLA just 2 days later. He ultimately decided to go to his dad's former school, LSU. So far in his first 4 games, we've seen a role increase from UCLA, but it hasn't been anything crazy. 60 minutes where he's averaging 3 points and 5 rebounds. He's got an uphill battle to the NBA, but it's not out of the cards. It's hard to see it at this point given he's averaging 3 points the age of a junior, but I'm really hoping he can put everything together. There's a real shot that if ONeil didn't have to deal with all these health issues, he would have been in the league, or at least be on pace to make it there. Next up, we've got possibly the most viral player from this group in Robert Bobroczky, who went absolutely viral a few years back for his insane height, standing at 7'7". While he's been one of the most interesting players to follow, not many expected a long basketball future for him, which is why we're not going to talk about it too much, as there's not much to say. After spending 4 years at Spire Institute, the same school where LaMelo Ball played his senior season, he committed to Rochester University this past summer, a small Division III school who's only played 1 game this season, where Robert didn't take the court and the rest have been postponed or canceled. At this point, it's looking like this might be the last stop in his basketball journey, but I really hope that's not the case. In a statement released by Rochester University, Coach Clint Pleasant said, "We're excited about welcoming Robert into our program. He's hungry to play, and he's got a desire to work on his strength in hopes to be ready for the physicality of the college game. His size will be unmatched, and he has a skill set and coordination to build upon." Robert also commented on his commitment, saying, "You might know me because I'm really tall, but I'm bigger than that. I'm just trying to make everyone proud and don't let them down. That's my motivation. If I don't put in the work, I won't get there." He's clearly motivated. The team seems excited to have him. I'm interested to see how this whole situation goes down. Next, I want to talk about a group that at one point was one of the most talked about things in high school basketball. Not only were they individually racking in millions of views for their play on the court, but they had the whole country replicating their moves. I'm talking about Jelly Fam. Jelly Fam was started by Isaiah Washington with his ability to make crazy layups known as jellies. He was one of the top faces of New York basketball, and while yes, his game was really flashy, he was actually pretty highly recruited. The 6'1" point guard finished his senior season as the 68th player in the country and 16th player at his position. Despite the ranking, he didn't have many offers flying in from big programs and decided to go to the University of Minnesota. Once he got there, it was a pretty similar story to a lot of guys on this list. Despite all the hype, it didn't look great. 9 points a game as a freshman, but on absolutely terrible efficiency. After this, it was no surprise that his role would go down as a sophomore, a season in which he would average 4 points, but hear this. He shot 31% from the field and 21% from 3. That just might be the worst efficiency I've ever seen, especially considering the sample size of 16 minutes a game across 28 games. Going into his junior year, he decided to transfer to Iona, where his numbers would improve to 11 points and 4 assists on 41-33 splits. He then decided to transfer again, leading up to this season to Long Beach State. So far in 3 games, he's averaged 15 points and 4 assists, shooting 42% from the field. A fun player to watch, just not sure it's looking like he's an NBA talent. I would say the other top name in Jelly Fam would be Jelly Fam JQ or Javon Quitterly. Now, me and many others actually looked at Quitterly as a legit NBA prospect coming out of high school. He was an extremely well-rounded point guard, graduating as a 7th ranked player at his position and 26th player in the country. He decided to go to a top program in Villanova, where it just wasn't pretty. It was clear very early on he wasn't going to be a one-and-done prospect. He would average 3 points a game, shooting 34% from the field. After this, he decided to transfer to Alabama, where he would redshirt this past season, but he's back this year, where in 5 games, he's averaged 14 points, shooting 47% from the field. Things are looking up, but I would be surprised if he's able to make it to the league via the draft at this point. But I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. If you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and the shoutouts are gonna be Luther, Shine, Gold, Apex, and Aiden. If you guys want to shout out on the next video, all you gotta do is like the video and comment like, rep notification squad, or be one of the first to comment on the video, and I'll shout 5 of you guys out. With all that being said, hope you guys have a great day, and peace.